Hello, beautiful people out there. I know a lot of you will be reading my story, and I thank you in advance for taking time out for me and my son. So I'm Giselle, and the man I call my son is Evan. And to start off, let me tell you that Evan is not my biological son. He was born to my stepsister Lara, who is older than me. Don't worry, she's very much alive, but she lost her motherly rights a long time ago. Let me tell you what happened. First of all, you should know that Lara and I were stepsisters on my dad's side. He was a very doting father and treated both of us equally. I had lost my mother young while Lara's mom married my dad. We were actually a pretty good blended family and had a great life. My dad happened to be a wealthy man, so we lived comfortably as well. However, his wealth sort of ended up spoiling Lara. Lara was always an obnoxious woman and overall very entitled. My dad and her mom tried their best to change her selfish attitude, but nothing worked. She was also sort of a wild child and ended up getting pregnant out of wedlock. She also didn't know who the father was, so my nephew Evan grew up in a single-parent household. My dad and stepmother did their part as loving and caring grandparents while I was the cool aunt. However, tragedy struck when my dad and stepmother died very close to each other. My dad was the last one to go. I still remember when he told me in private. I worry about Evan, you know. Lara doesn't seem to be the best mother to him. I have noticed that, Dad. I tried talking to her, but she ignored me. You know, she never liked me as much anyway. I know, Giselle. I don't understand why Lara is this way. We tried our best to make her more responsible, but nothing worked. I don't know what she will do with Evan. Her new boyfriend is also not good news. I don't like the guy either, Dad. I've seen how he slights Evan and tries to take Lara away from him. I have the feeling he doesn't want Evan around. You were right about that. I'm afraid I just hope Lara does the right thing. Giselle, can you keep an eye on Evan? You are the only one he has now. He has been pretty lonely already, and when I pass, things will get worse. Don't worry, Dad. I'll keep an eye on Evan. I do consider him my nephew after all. Besides, he is a good kid, even though he has been neglected a lot. I meant every word I said to my dad. Evan was my nephew, and there was no way I wouldn't care for him. I think Dad died a little more peacefully knowing that I was there for him. After he passed, I resolved to drill some sense into Lara and make sure she stops treating Evan like a disposable child. But things didn't go as planned. One morning, Evan called me crying on the phone and told me to come over immediately. I was really concerned about him and raced to his house. He was sitting on the front steps and crying. I brought him inside and comforted him before asking him what was wrong. He said, Mom left Giselle. I woke up this morning and I saw that her stuff was gone. She left a note saying that she wasn't coming back. What are you talking about? Have you tried calling her? Yes, I tried to call her, but she wouldn't pick up. I quickly pulled out my cell phone and called Lara. I was still in a daze and couldn't believe that she had just abandoned her son and ran away. Although I wasn't a mother, I still knew that it was something no mother would or should do. Surprisingly, Lara picked up the call. She said, There is no use trying to get me to come back. I won't be returning, so don't bother with that nonsense. Have you gone mad, Lara? You can't just leave your son and ride off into the sunset. You are with your new lover, aren't you? Oh yes, my new lover has actually proposed and we got engaged yesterday. I will be using my inheritance for a big wedding soon. He wants to stay child-free, so taking Evan wasn't an option. What the hell are you even talking about? You are the only one Evan has. You can't abandon him for a stupid man. I'm not getting any younger, Giselle. No man will take me with a child. Evan is 14 and will sail through life from now on. He's not a toddler, so he doesn't need me. Now, I will be changing my phone number, so don't bother calling again. Those were the last words that she said to me. She hung up and straight up blocked me, and when I turned around to face Evan, he looked lost. His eyes were empty. Even the tears had stopped. He said, "It's okay, Gazelle. You don't have to make false promises. I know she won't come back. She chose her lover over me." "This is wrong, Evan. I'm sure your mother will come to her senses soon." "No, she won't, Gazelle. She has her inheritance now. She doesn't need anything from us anymore. I guess I'm on my own now." "Absolutely not, Evan. You are not on your own. You still have me. I'm going to be there for you. Don't ever say that you are alone." I never had any intention of having kids. Kids were simply not on my lists. However, I couldn't just leave Evan to the mercy of foster homes, so I kept my promise to my dad and decided to take care of him. After a lot of stupid paperwork, Evan started to live with me. He was a broken kid who needed years of therapy to accept the new changes in his life. I had a good job and my father's inheritance helped me take care of Evan. My dad had split his money 50-50 between me and Lara to make things even. However, Lara had no intention of ever spending that money on Evan. Years passed and Lara never came back. We looked for her and tracked her down about 2 years later. My lawyer tracked her down to talk about child support, but, to my surprise, instead of trying to mend bridges, Lara simply chose to give up her rights to Evan. When Evan received the news, he was devastated. He said, "I really am a burden, aren't I? My own mother doesn't want me. Now I have become your burden." "No, Evan, you are not a burden to me. Lara doesn't know what a big mistake she's made. I'm sure she will regret that later in life." "I don't even know if I care anymore, Gazelle. I just don't want to be a burden on you. You have already done enough for me. I promise I will get out of your hair as soon as I turn 18. I'm looking for a job since I will graduate soon. I will crash on a friend's couch till I can pay rent. He won't mind." "Oh, no, no, no. I will have none of that nonsense. You are my responsibility now, Evan. You are my only family, and families stick together. You will stay with me till you are ready to move away. You will go to college and get that medical degree. I will help you every step of the way." Evan cried into my arms that day. It filled me with both rage and sadness. I was raging mad at Lara for hurting the poor kid, and I was sad for Evan because his self-esteem was non-existent. That day, I vowed to make sure Evan has everything he needs to be successful. I had already kept aside a part of my inheritance to make a college fund for Evan. I gave him that when he qualified for medical school. A few more years passed and Evan got that medical degree. He was a top student at his uni and immediately got into a good hospital as an intern. He was earning good money and finally living a happy life. His mental health struggles were almost gone, and I was happy to see him prosper. He still lived with me because he was saving up for a house. We had a pretty good life and rarely even mentioned Lara. We had no idea what she was up to. Well, we didn't have to wonder for long. It was on a rare holiday that Evan was home. We were having some quality time having breakfast together when my doorbell rang. I went to check who it was and wasn't prepared to come face to face with Lara. At first glance, I couldn't even recognize her. She was way thinner and the years were not kind to her. She looked way older than her age and her clothes had holes in them. She smiled nervously and asked to come in. Look, guys, I'm not a monster, and seeing her in that state made me pity her, so I let her in. Evan came to see what was going on. The moment he saw Lara, he froze. Lara looked elated to see him, while Evan looked blank. She ran to him and hugged him. She said, "Oh my God, Evan, I can't believe how much you've grown. My little boy is all grown up now." "Yeah, time does that to people. Why are you here?" "I've come to see you, Evan. Are you not happy to see me?" "Why on earth would I be happy to see you?" Lara's cheerful demeanor took a dive soon. Her face changed as Evan's tone made it clear that he wasn't happy to see her. Lara looked at me to confirm that both of us were very unimpressed with her unwanted appearance. She gulped and said, "Shouldn't you be happy to see your mom, Evan? It's been 8 years since I've seen you. Which is exactly why I'm super curious to know what made you come here. What happened? Did your dear husband finally let you have your kid in your life? No, it's not like that, Evan. My husband kicked me out of our house. He was cheating on me with someone younger. He's made me homeless now. That was news to me. I couldn't believe that Lara was homeless. Even though her husband was a questionable man, she had money of her own. Her inheritance wouldn't have allowed her to be homeless and in this condition. I was really surprised and said, "You are homeless now? What happened to your inheritance, Lara?" "You cashed it in, I know that." "The inheritance is all gone. My husband gambled it away and spent money on his mistress. I have nothing to my name except my car." Seriously, Lara? Seriously, Lara? Are you telling me that you and your husband blew through all your money? Why don't you get a lawyer and sue him for alimony and stuff? I don't have any money, Gazelle. I'm absolutely broke. I was madly in love with my husband, and this is where it got me. I really need your help now. I desperately need my son and my sister. The truth came out of Lara's mouth. She hadn't just shown up to reconnect with her. Oh, no, no, no. Lara will never do that. She was actually here expecting us to house her, feed her, and clothe her now that she's broke. God help people who are as entitled as my stepsister. Her face said it all. She had come to my house fully expecting me and Evan to help her. However, she was in for a surprise. Evan, instead of empathizing with her, looked at her blankly. He said in the most deadpan tone, "So that's why you're here now. I don't see how any of this is our problem. We don't care about what bad decisions you made to be in this situation." "What are you saying, Evan? You're saying that you don't care about me?" "Give me one good reason why I should care about you." I'm your mother, Evan. Of course you should care about me. You are my son. It's your duty to look after your mom." "Well, that's where you're wrong, Lara. I don't consider you my mother." Lara looked like she had been slapped. I guess she hadn't expected her son to outright say that he doesn't consider her his mother. Lara had, after all, come here so that she could get some financial assistance from Evan and me. I can see why she thought that. I mean, I have a great job and Evan is all set to be a high-paying doctor. We had the money to help her best, but it turns out none of us were willing to help her. Lara had a hard time believing that we would turn our backs on her. She started to tear up and said, "Evan, how can you say that? I'm your mother. Nothing is going to change the fact." "Oh, really? That's what you think? Did you forget the fact that you signed away my rights to Gazelle?" "You have to understand, Evan, I was in love and couldn't do anything. My fiancé wasn't going to accept you, so I had to give you up. I knew Gazelle would take good care of you." "Oh, shut up, Lara. Gazelle didn't have to take care of me. She doesn't even have any kind of blood relation with me. I mean, she wasn't even old enough to have a kid my age. You left your teen son with someone who didn't even know how to raise kids." "You are misunderstanding me, Evan. I always trusted Gazelle's ability to care for people. That's why I left you with her." Now, many people would consider this as a compliment. However, I didn't find this flattering at all. First of all, she never consulted me about leaving Evan with me. She didn't know that I would be a good guardian for Evan. She didn't even stop to care about him that much. That was exactly why she gave up her rights so easily when my lawyer reached out to her. If she loved or cared about her son at least a little, she would have reached out back then. I wasn't going to let her paint herself as a saint now, so I said, "That was not a compliment at all, Lara. Also, you didn't even talk to me. You straight up abandoned him and left. You didn't even bother to share your plan with me." "That's because I knew you wouldn't agree with me. I wasn't going to leave everything to chance." "There it is, Lara. So you do accept that you knew there was a possibility Gazelle wouldn't agree to your plan. Looks like you just proved my words right again. You didn't leave me in her care knowingly. You simply did what suited you the best." I didn't even have to do much. Evan is a clever man and knows exactly how to get the truth out of people. Evan was a smart boy, and he was able to catch Lara's stupidity very easily. Lara once again found herself unable to explain her actions to him. I wasn't backing up her claims either, so she changed tactics. She started to cry now and said, "I know I may have messed up a little, but see, your life turned out well, Evan. You have become so successful." "Yes, I've become successful, but no thanks to you. Giselle sacrificed a major part of her inheritance to send me to medical college. Pretty sure she even took out some money from her own savings to secure my future. You, on the other hand, did nothing of the sort." "Evan, dear, your mom had messed up big time. She only wants a single chance to make things right. Can't you give me one chance, my boy?" "First of all, I already made it clear that you are not my mom, and I am not your boy. Secondly, I have no interest in giving you any chances. You should have tried when Giselle had asked you to terminate your rights to me. You lost your chance then." "Please don't be so hard on me, Evan. I'm your mother, even though you don't see me as a mother right now." "Oh, please, Lara. You are not my mom in any way. Just giving birth to me doesn't make you my mother. In fact, Giselle is more of a mom to me than you have ever been." My heart swelled with pride when Evan said that. It truly made all my sacrifices worth it. I really considered Evan as my son, although I never said it out loud. I didn't want him to think that I was trying to replace his mother. Turns out he and I were on the same page all this time. It brought tears of joy to my eyes. I said, "Do you mean it, Evan? Do you see me as somewhat of a mother?" "Not just somewhat, Giselle. I consider you my mother. You are the only one who deserves to be called my mom." No, no, no. She cannot be your mom. I am still legally your mom." "In that case, how about this? Giselle, will you adopt me as your son? You know, adult adoptions are a thing, right?" "I'm up for it. I've been thinking about it for a while now. If you are okay with this, I would love to be officially your son." Those words did things to my poor heart. I felt so overwhelmed with love that I had trouble forming the words. Evan was looking at me expectantly while Lara was borderline in panic. I, on the other hand, was overcome with emotions. I lightly cried and said, "Oh, Evan, I would love to adopt you. Nothing would make me happier." No, no, you can't adopt, Evan. I won't allow this. I will never allow this." "Who says that you get an opinion on this matter? This is between me and Giselle. We didn't ask for your input." "You have to listen to me, Evan. Giselle is not your mother. I am your mother. You have gone blind. She's just playing with your emotions for your money. This was all planned out by her." Evan laughed, and at that, so did I. The absolute audacity of Lara was astounding, although I was a little less surprised than Evan. I mean, I have known Lara for years and have seen how ridiculous and entitled she could be. She was truly a delusional woman who didn't care about anyone other than herself. But this time things will not go according to her wishes. Evan said, "You are really a jokester, you know, Lara. Giselle doesn't need to play me for money. She had plenty of money that she could have kept for herself. Did she do that? Nope. She used it on me so that I could have a good future. However, I can't say the same for you." But you have to see the truth, Evan. I gave birth to you and I need your help more. You are the only one I have." "No can do, Lara. I have absolutely no obligations towards the woman who abandoned me, so I would advise you not to spend your time with me. Why don't you just go find a job if you need money that bad?" "I haven't worked in almost a decade, Evan. I don't even know what place would employ me. You can't let your mom work at a minimum wage job. That won't be good for your reputation." "For the last time, you are not my mom. Stop deluding yourself. Now, since you don't have anything else to say, it's time you leave." "Wait, what? Are you going to kick me out?" Lara looked like a lost puppy with tears swimming in her eyes. Maybe that puppy eyes would work on many people, but it definitely didn't sway me or Evan. Instead, I said in a calm voice, This house is mine, so Evan cannot kick you out, but I can, and I will." "Absolutely not, Giselle. I am not leaving without mending my relationship with my son." "The man you call your son doesn't even see you as his mother. Now, you need to leave before I call the cops on you. And yes, if you don't stop harassing my son, I will call the cops and report you for harassment." Lara started to argue and threw a tantrum. However, we were having none of it. So when she simply wouldn't leave my house, I picked up the phone and showed her that I was going to call the cops. She cried and begged some more and then was forced to leave. Very stupidly, Lara tried to show up at my house again. She did that multiple times till I actually called the cops, who issued her a warning. After that, she didn't come back. I don't really know where she is or what she's up to. She somehow got hold of Evan's phone number, probably through the hospital. She tried to harass him into helping her. He simply kept blocking all the numbers she called from till the calls stopped altogether. Now for the happy part. Evan was serious when he said that he wanted me to adopt him, so I did what any doting parent would do. I gave in to his wishes. He didn't even have to pester me because that was exactly what I wanted as well. I'm happy to announce that Evan is officially my son now. I know that a lot of people would think that this was unnecessary. However, I beg to differ. It was important for Evan to erase his ties to Lara and officially make me his mom. He even started to call me Mom, which still brings tears to my eyes sometimes. With every passing day, I grow more and more proud of my son, who has developed into such an amazing man. I thank God for sending him to my life, and also for giving Lara her karma. "I don't want anything to do with you anymore." This is what my dad had said before he kicked me out of the house. I, Anika, was only 20 back then. I was just a student who went home because her father called her to know where the money from her college fund went. Yes, my father, Sam, had set up a college fund for me. It was supposed to pay for my college and other expenses while I lived in the dorms. But when I was nearing 21, Dad found out that I had spent almost all the money in the account. I still had a semester left, and the money wasn't even enough to last me 2 weeks. I still remember the day when Dad called me home. I was really confused about what was going on. Dad sounded angry on the phone. I texted his fiancée Lisa and her daughter Natalie about what was going on. None of them replied back. When I reached home, Dad and Lisa were waiting for me. Dad said, "Your college fund is almost empty. Where's the money, Anika? What did you do with it?" "I don't know what you're talking about, Dad." "Did you just say that my college fund is empty? That's impossible. I still have to go through another year. I didn't even make any withdrawals recently." "Don't lie to us, Anika. We found all the receipts for the purchases you made, and we know that you used your card. It's in the bank statement." "You did it again, Anika, didn't you? After all these years, you went back to your spendthrift habits. You thought that you would finish your college fund and then come back for more money." Dad's words hit me right in the soul. He was accusing me of relapsing and using the money for stupid things. Here is the thing about me. I used to be a shopaholic in school and ended up using my dad's card to make unauthorized purchases. However, I recognized that I needed help and joined therapy. I hadn't gone back to my habits at all, but my dad seemed to think otherwise. I was hurt that he didn't even believe me. I had tears in my eyes when I said, "Dad, I swear I didn't relapse. I tried hard to keep myself in check. I won't take responsibility for something I didn't do." "I would have believed you if Lisa hadn't provided me with the receipts. She found them in your room." "They are not mine, Dad, I swear to you. You have to believe me." "You were already caught red-handed, Anika. The least you can do is accept your wrongs and apologize to your dad. What you did was awful." "I'm innocent, Lisa. I haven't done anything." "I knew you wouldn't accept your wrongs. I can't believe this is what you have become. You are an ungrateful brat who doesn't deserve my help. Get out and don't come back. You're on your own. I don't care how you will continue college, but you won't get a cent out of me anymore." That was the last time I saw my dad before I left home. He really did kick me out. Natalie tried to persuade him and Lisa not to do this. However, Dad was adamant about throwing me out. He kept telling me how disappointed and angry he was while I cried and begged him to believe me. Lisa comforted me a little, but still refused to believe me as well. Only Natalie was on my side but couldn't help. She was a minor back then anyway. That day, I left my dad's house for good, and my life changed completely. A year passed, and Dad didn't even reach out. My calls and texts were ignored. When I went to visit him, he refused to let me in. I talked to Lisa sometimes, but only Natalie stayed in my life. I was working 2 jobs and took loans to complete college. Somehow I managed to graduate. Dad didn't even show up for it. Only Natalie arrived as my cheerleader. It was on that day that Natalie told me Dad was getting married to Lisa. I never got an invite. I was a heartbroken mess and simply couldn't move on with my life. My mother was gone and she was an orphan. My dad and his family were my family, but they cut me off after this incident too. Those were some homeless days that I got through only due to Natalie and my boyfriend's support. For a long time, I thought that I would never be able to prove my innocence. I was sure that my dad would always believe that I was a thief and misused his generosity. It hurt me in many ways, and my life felt empty. However, God had other plans for me. My chance at redemption came through Natalie. She randomly showed up at my small apartment with tears in her eyes. I was concerned and let her in. She said, "I need to talk to you, Anika. It's about something important." "What's going on, Natalie? Who is this about?" "Anika, it's my mom. My mom is not the woman she seems to be. I used to worship her and consider her my hero, but now I know that she is nothing short of a monster." "What are you talking about, Natalie? You need to tell me everything." "I don't know how to put this into words, Anika. I can't believe my mom would do something like this. I swear I had no idea until recently." "Natalie, calm down. Tell me what's going on." "I can't express this in words, Anika." "I'll just show you the video. I left my camera on while making a YouTube video for my channel. Mom must have come into my room to talk to her friend. She had no idea that I was recording her." Natalie was shaking like a leaf when she handed over her camera to me. She has her own YouTube channel where she posts makeup videos. It wasn't big, but I was confident she was getting there. Never in my life had I imagined what I would find in the video she accidentally captured. It blew my mind, and I honestly didn't know what to say. It had a clear shot of Lisa conversing with who appeared to be her maid of honor. She was examining her wedding dress in front of Natalie's vanity because she had better lighting. As she held the dress close to her, she smiled like an evil woman and said, "I can't believe I'm getting married to Sam. Things have fallen right into place like I had imagined." "Yes, I'm so happy for you, Lisa. Initially, I thought that Sam's stupid daughter would become a problem for you, but now I see that's not the case." "Who, Anika?" "Well, she didn't have a chance against me. I made sure she's out of our lives for good. She was taking up way too many resources from Sam. I had to get rid of her so that Natalie could get all of Sam's love and money. I can see that Sam's paying everything for Natalie. I'm so happy to see her go to college without debt. Sam spoils her rotten. He used to spoil Anika too, but he doesn't anymore." "What did you do to get rid of her?" "Oh, that's a funny story, actually. You know what? I stole her college fund and made it seem like she spent the money on stupid things." My blood went cold as soon as Lisa said those words. I had a hard time comprehending what this stupid woman was even saying. I had my doubts about Lisa, but I hadn't really thought that she would do this to me. I was absolutely dumbstruck by her unintentional confession. Lisa didn't even show any remorse. She narrated the story like it was all fun and games. The video played on as they talked. "Oh my God, that is genius, Lisa. But how did you pull it off? It must have been hard to make everything believable." "Oh, please, you know how good I am at executing my plan. I kept taking Natalie's credit card when she wasn't around. That stupid girl trusts everyone so easily. She never noticed the card missing. Then I went and bought a bunch of stuff and spent money on food and alcohol. Remember that Dior purse I gave you? Yeah, I bought it with that money." "I was really wondering where you got so much money to buy a Dior bag for me." "It was all from Lisa's college fund. I have the rest of the stuff hidden away. After the wedding, I'll just tell Sam that they are gifts I got from friends. He'll never suspect a thing. You know, he believed me so easily when I said Anika was behind her college fund disappearing. The girl had a shopping addiction in the past. She hadn't relapsed, but I used her past to get her out of my life." "That was awesome, Lisa. You killed two birds with one stone. I must say, you are a genius." "That I am. But my plans haven't come to an end yet. Natalie doesn't know anything about what I did. For some reason, she keeps sticking to that loser daughter of Sam's. I need to separate those two and find a way to make Sam disinherit Anika. After that, I wouldn't have to worry about anything." The video then showed the two of them laughing and joking about what Lisa did to me. I was stupefied by the whole video and was shaking myself. Natalie cried on and on beside me. We didn't speak for some time. Natalie understood that I needed time to digest what I just saw. Guys, my mind was reeling. I had no idea Lisa was such a venomous little snake. Lisa was always so nice to me, but she still went and stabbed me behind my back. It was all a game to her. She used my past to throw me out of my dad's life. She was the reason why my dad and my extended family no longer spoke to me. That woman took away the only family I had. I was furious, but it also brought tears to my eyes. The hurt and betrayal was overwhelming. Natalie cried like a baby and said, "I'm so sorry, Anika. Everything happened because of me. If I hadn't asked my mom about my college fund, this wouldn't have happened." "No, I'll not have you blame yourself for something that you had no part in. You are not responsible for your mom's actions. If anything, I should be grateful to you for telling me the truth." "I don't support what my mom did, Anika. I cannot tell you how much it broke me to know that I am the reason my mom did this." "You need to stop blaming yourself, Natalie. Your mom would have done it even if you had a solid college fund. She is just an evil woman. I'm forced to say this now." "I agree with you completely, Anika. God, I'm so disgusted with her right now. I don't even want to see her face, let alone attend the wedding. We need to do something, Anika. I can't have this on my conscience. We need to tell your dad the truth." I've been thinking about that. Even if I was mad at my father for how easily he believed Lisa and cast me aside, I still wanted him to know the truth. I needed to prove myself innocent. I had worked hard to get over my shopaholic tendencies, and I would not have anyone target me for it. I won't let Lisa use my past against me and get away with her evil plans. I had to tell Dad, but I also needed Natalie's help. Since Dad wasn't talking to me, I needed Natalie to convince him to meet me once, and it needed to happen before he got married to that evil woman Lisa. So I said to Natalie, "If we tell Dad, I'll need your help, Natalie. You know that he doesn't talk to me anymore. I doubt he will listen to me if I try to say something." "Yes, I know that, Anika. God, I feel awful. I will do everything possible to let him know the truth." "Thanks for your help, Natalie. But I need to warn you, Dad may end up postponing or canceling the marriage when he finds out. Lisa will face his wrath. Are you sure you'll be able to go through that? I don't care what happens to Mom. She already destroyed your life and needs to face karma for her actions. She might be my mom, but I won't support her evil deeds. Don't worry, I will do everything to make sure Sam knows the truth. I want you to prove your innocence." With Natalie's support, I was confident that I would be able to prove my innocence. We talked for some time and came up with the specifics of how we should handle the situation. Natalie and I were both raging mad at Lisa and wanted to confront her. But it needed to happen in front of my dad. I didn't want her to have the room to convince Dad that she was innocent. She was capable of everything. We knew that then, so we were going to take proper precautions so that she could not twist the story to her benefit. Natalie went home with the promise of meeting the next day. She went and secretly talked to my dad and convinced him to see me the day before his wedding. I don't know how she managed to convince him, but she did say that my dad didn't protest when she asked him to meet me. With a little hope in my mind, I went back to my dad's house where I hadn't set foot in a year. When I reached there, I saw that my dad was patiently waiting for me. As soon as he saw me, I could tell that he was struggling to stay put. Every time he saw me, he used to hug me. But the incident with my college fund has completely destroyed our relationship. It broke my heart to see him look so sad. I sat down opposite my dad and Lisa while Natalie came to stand beside me. Lisa looked a little irritated when she saw me, but plastered on a fake smile to say, "Hello, Annika. How are you doing? It's been a long time since we've seen you. You know why you haven't seen me in a while. Also, there's no reason to act nice to me anymore. It's pointless now." "Annika, that's not a nice way to talk to your soon-to-be stepmother." "Right, I'd almost forgotten how blind you are when it comes to Lisa. Anyway, I don't want to have any relationship with Lisa anymore. She's already lost her place in my life after what she did." "What the hell are you talking about, Annika?" Lisa sounded a little scared, but still stubbornly held on to her confidence. She was sure that there was no way any of us would know the truth. But her guilty conscience was telling her something else. Surprisingly, I got my father's attention when I said those words. He looked a little concerned and said, "What are you talking about, Annika?" "I'm talking about the incident with my college fund. Remember how Lisa was so quick to discover what happened and how she immediately blamed me? Yeah, turns out there was a reason for it all." "What do you mean, Annika? Are you saying that Lisa was somehow involved in that incident?" "Lies. These are all lies, Sam. You have to see what your daughter is trying to do. She's trying to blame her wrongdoings on me. Don't believe a word she says, Sam. She is a fraud and a greedy scammer." "Don't talk about my daughter that way. She's my daughter, so I can call her whatever I want. But you don't get to have that privilege. Annika, you need to back your claims. I won't just believe what you say." "That is ironic, since you believed Lisa back then, even without concrete proof." Dad winced, like what I said had hurt him. To be honest, my tone wasn't the best. Lisa was now fully in panic mode because my dad was slowly starting to be more forthcoming with me. He was starting to have second thoughts about what happened a year back. Dad looked a little sad and said, "I had to believe what Lisa said, Annika. There was plenty of proof with the receipts and all." "And you didn't even stop to think if it was a setup. You really mistrust me that much. It hurt to know that, Dad. Anyway, I'm only here to prove my innocence to you." "That is nonsense. We all know that you are the one who spent all the money from your college fund." "Is she, Mom? Is Annika the one who cleared out her college fund?" Lisa now looked even more pale as her own daughter joined my side. Now she was getting really concerned that something was wrong. She gulped heavily and started trying to give a reply to that. Before she could come up with a pathetic excuse, Natalie said, "Don't even bother to answer me, Mom. I know that you don't have the guts to tell everyone the truth, so I will do that for you." "Natalie, you too think that your mom is behind this?" "I don't think, Sam. I know that my mom was the one who stole the money. Here, watch this video and see for yourself." Natalie showed Sam the video and let it play in front of Lisa. As the video played, both Dad and Lisa looked shocked for two different reasons. Dad was shocked because he hadn't expected his own fiancée to do something like this. Lisa was shocked because she hadn't expected to get caught. She knew well enough that the video clearly proved that she was the mastermind behind it all. She was now shaking and had tears in her eyes while Dad gave her the most hate-filled look ever. Lisa stuttered and said, "Sam, I can explain." "You can explain this, Lisa? Tell me how you will explain doing something so horrible to separate me from my daughter." "I didn't mean any harm, Sam. I was just looking out for our future." "You were looking out for our future by destroying my daughter's life and separating me from her? I freaking kicked my daughter out because of your lies, Lisa. How could you do this to me?" Lisa just kept crying because she knew that there was no positive explanation for her awful plan. She has not only destroyed my life but also called me a thief. She dared to separate my father from me. Now that the truth was out, she was going to pay for this. She said, "Sam, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done this." "There is no use saying that anymore, Lisa. Now I can clearly see what a manipulative and evil woman you are. I will never forgive you for this. I don't even know if I want to stay with you anymore." No, Sam. Don't say that. We can fix this. I made a small mistake. Please don't leave me over this. "You don't deserve mercy, Lisa. You are a horrible woman. I can't imagine spending the rest of my life with someone who tried to ruin my relationship with my daughter." "Sam, please don't make any rash decisions. I know I was wrong. I will apologize for everything. I will even apologize to Anika. I will fix everything before our wedding tomorrow." "You are truly delusional if you still think that I will marry you, Lisa. The wedding is off. I will be cancelling everything tomorrow." Lisa was shocked by what Dad said. She hadn't expected Dad to straight away cancel the wedding. Even me and Natalie weren't sure that my dad would cancel the wedding. However, in the end, Dad ended up cancelling the wedding even though it was just a single day away. Lisa absolutely went mad and started to beg him for forgiveness. When Dad stopped responding, she turned to me and said, "Anika, please forgive me. If you forgive me, your dad will agree to fix our relationship. I really love him. I can't lose him." "There is no way on earth that I will ever forgive you, Lisa. I don't even care what Dad does with you. Just know that I will never forgive you for calling me a thief and trying to separate me from my dad." "No, please don't say that, Anika. Natalie, please talk to Anika and Sam. Tell them to forgive me. I promise everyone that I will never do something like this again." "Don't you dare pull me into your dirty plans, Mom. I support Sam in calling off the wedding. I would actually be happier if he left you for good. You don't deserve happiness after what you did. And you know what? I don't want to be in your life either. I don't want to have an evil woman like you in my life." Natalie's statements made Lisa even more desperate for forgiveness. She kept begging me and everyone for mercy because she could see her life crumbling around her. She was losing her fiancé and her own daughter was going to disown her. She just couldn't accept it. She kept begging while my dad made it clear that he would never forgive her. Lisa kept crying while Dad told her to move out of his house as soon as possible. He was going to remove her access to his credit cards and leave her to fend for herself. While Lisa lay crying on the floor, my dad tearfully apologized to me. He kept telling me how sorry he was and that he had messed up big time. I didn't say much because the pain was still too much for me. I left with Natalie, who also didn't want to be around Lisa anymore. The next day, Dad called off the wedding and told everyone what had happened. He also gave Lisa an eviction notice and told her to pay back what she owed me, or else he would call the cops on her. Lisa was forced to pay back what she stole from me. She started to work 2 jobs to make sure the money was paid back in full. My dad later called me and we had a heart-to-heart conversation about what happened. There were lots of tears, but we both felt lighter after the conversation. We are slowly repairing our relationship because I am still not completely over the betrayal. Natalie has been a good support system and actually continues to be a part of our lives, even though her mom isn't anymore. I must say that after everything, I did lose a lot, but ended up getting an amazing friend and sister in Natalie. Hello guys, my name's Zoe and this is my story. I will be using fake names because my story is unique and I don't want to be recognized. I don't care if anyone recognizes my now ex-husband Sean or his girlfriend Terry, but I have a son whose identity I would like to protect. I'll call him Keith here. My story is a little painful, so bear with me when I get carried away with emotions. I married my husband Sean when I was 25. We had a fairly amazing relationship and a good marriage. Sure, there was his ex, Terry, who created some problems, but they never bothered me that much. Sean had always assured me that he wasn't in love with Terry. I believed him. I also chalked up Terry to being jealous and salty because Sean left him. Before our wedding, she said things like, "You and Sean won't last long, Zoe. Mark my words. Sean is still in love with me. I know that in my heart." "Don't be ridiculous, Terry. I know you wish he was with you, but there's no reason for you to wish our breakup. Besides, it won't happen anyway. Sean is not in love with you." "You don't know anything, Zoe. Sean and I are soulmates. We were always meant to be. You cannot come between us." "If you were meant to be, then why did you break up?" "You have to remember that you broke up for reasons, Terry." "We broke up because I am infertile and can't give him children. He's only marrying you so that he can have a child of his own. Mark my words, Zoe. One day after you give him a child, he will leave you." Terry's words really made me uncomfortable. I was already a little insecure about myself, and her words didn't make things any better. She had also constantly stomped our boundaries and did some outrageous things. This was the last straw that made me speak to my husband. Together we decided to cut Terry out of our lives. Sean didn't seem that much affected by it, and he assured me that he was with me because he loved me. The trouble started back again when I found out that I was pregnant. It was almost 5 years into our marriage. Things were great between me and my husband. We had planned the baby, although it took me a while to get pregnant. When we found out that we were having a kid, we were over the moon. It was a boy, and we couldn't wait to have him in our arms. I was on bed rest because it was a high-risk pregnancy, but Sean was extremely caring and cooperative. While we were happy, Terry appeared out of thin air to express her frustrations at me. She had called me to say, "You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to have Sean's child. I love him more, and this child should have been mine." "Look, Terry, I understand that it is painful for you to not have kids, but this is not okay. You need to stop obsessing over us and get help." "Don't tell me what to do, Zoe. If I wasn't infertile, your son would have been mine. If you weren't in the picture, me and Sean would have had a good life with our son. You spoiled everything." "You need to get help, Terry. I tried to be patient and understanding with you, but you have done nothing but harass me. This can't go on. I'm afraid we will have to take action if you continue to be so unhinged." "Do what you want, Zoe. At the end of the day, nothing will change the truth. This child should have been mine. Maybe one day he will be mine." Terry's unhinged behavior put me on edge. I talked to Sean, who assured me that he didn't tell her about my pregnancy. He promised to handle the situation and didn't want me to stress out. He even arranged everything about getting a midwife and making the necessary arrangements for my delivery. We were having a home birth on Sean's insistence. I tried telling him that I wanted to go to a hospital, but he told me that a home birth would be better. The midwife he chose was good, so I didn't question him as much. Besides, I trusted my husband to make the right call. I really shouldn't have done that. I still remember the night I gave birth. The birth was super painful and I actually passed out from the pain. When I woke up, Sean and the midwife looked extremely sad. Their faces said it all, but I couldn't believe it. I said, "Where is my son? Where is he? Bring him to me. I want to hold him." "I'm so sorry, Zoe. Our son didn't make it." "What are you talking about, Sean? This can't be true. My son is fine. Just bring him to me." "Our son is gone, Zoe. There was nothing we could do to save him. I'm so sorry, Zoe." What happened next is still super hazy to me. I remember breaking down and crying, but there isn't much else I remember. My mental health was so bad that I was put on pills. My baby boy was cremated without my presence. At that time, I was sedated because my mental health got that bad. I couldn't even see my son even once. By the time I was back to a little normal, it was too late. I was only left with pain and regrets. It was a big challenge to come back to normal, and I had Sean and his family for support. Years passed and I became too scared to have another child. Surprisingly, Sean never pushed for another child either. I thought that maybe he didn't want to stress me out. But slowly, his reluctance to have kids was starting to bug me. He was also acting a little too suspicious with his phone and had been distant for a while, and he was taking a little too many business trips in the last few years. One day, I found a plane ticket for him that I knew nothing about. I said, "Why did you book a plane ticket to this city, Sean?" "Oh, it's for a business trip, Zoe. You don't have to be so concerned about it." "Why didn't you tell me about it sooner? You've been taking a lot of business trips recently." "Yes, I got a promotion. Management is now making me do all sorts of things. I was so busy at work that I forgot to tell you." Alarm bells rang in my head since Sean was acting nervous. I had no idea what to think. When he was in the shower, I actually ended up taking matters into my own hands. In a split second, I decided to go through Sean's phone. I wasn't hoping to find anything. Actually, I was desperately praying that I would find nothing. But fate had other plans. Not only did I find out that Sean was having an affair, but also the name of the woman he was seeing. It was none other than Terry, his ex-girlfriend. The texts went back a year and detailed Sean and Terry's meeting and escapades. It also mentioned someone named Keith, although I had no idea who he was. At that moment, my head was spinning with the fact that my husband was cheating on me. I barely held myself back to avoid making Sean suspicious. I wanted to find out more and catch them red-handed, so I decided to stay quiet for some time and follow my husband. That night, Sean was all set to meet up with Terry in another city. He had flown there telling me that it was a work trip. He took several work trips like these, which I now know were all fake. He was just flying there to see his freaking ex, who was actually his girlfriend, I guess. I had no pity for Terry because I was pretty sure she knew. I mean, they even discussed how they would keep this a secret from me. I was absolutely raging mad. The pain had subsided after Sean left. My tears had died down and I was now desperate for a confrontation. The next day, I took a flight to that city and went to the cafe where they were supposed to go. I waited there for Sean and Terry to show up. When Sean and Terry finally arrived, I saw that they were accompanied by a small boy. It was like a punch to my gut. The moment Sean and Terry spotted me, they looked panicked. It was all the more confirmation. Still, Sean rushed to me and said, "This isn't what it looks like, Zoe. I can explain." "How do you plan to explain the fact that you have been cheating on me, Sean?" "Tell me how you plan to explain that." "You have to listen to me, Zoe. Terry and I are just friends. We reconnected over Facebook a little while ago and I just want to be friendly." "Is that why you're here, playing dad to her child, Sean? Is he yours?" No, he's not my child, Zoe. I swear, I only reconnected with Terry a few months ago. Keith is only 5. There is no way he's mine. Terry, tell her." "Yes, Sean is telling the truth, Zoe. My son is only 5. There is no way he is Sean's child. We started talking again this March." My head was reeling with what I was witnessing. I already had tears in my eyes and was on the edge of pure panic. My husband was acting all dumb and innocent. Somehow his mistress was also playing along with what he was saying. I knew for a fact that they were both lying. I saw their texts, which went back a whole year. Sean may have deleted the rest of the texts. I trusted my eyes more than I trusted those cheating idiots. But before I could tell that to their face, something shocking happened. The child, Keith, who had been silently watching us until now, looked confused and decided to say, "What are you guys saying? That's not true. You are my dad. And why do you keep telling her that I'm 5? I'm 6 years old. What? You were 6 years old? And Sean is your father? Yes, I think my mom and dad have gotten confused about my birthday. I also know who my dad is. Terry and Sean looked absolutely horrified while I stood there in shock. The kid was clearly calling my husband his father and saying that he was 6 years old. If I did the maths right, he was conceived around the time that I was pregnant. My husband was sleeping with his ex while I was in bed with a high-risk pregnancy. And he had gotten her pregnant as well. Who knows, he may have gotten her pregnant before me. All these new thoughts sent my brain into overdrive. But I remained calm because I needed to get to the bottom of this. Meanwhile, Terry and Sean were in full panic mode trying to hush Keith into silence. They said, "You need to stay out of this, Keith. I'm so sorry, Zoe. He doesn't know what he's talking about." I would rather believe him over you lying idiots. Keith clearly says that he is your child, Sean. How would you explain that? Come on, Zoe, he's just a kid. You can't possibly believe what he's saying. Why are you lying to this lady, Dad? You know I'm telling the truth. I am 6 and you are my dad. It's even on my ID card. Keith was starting to tear up. He was confused about why his father was straight up denying their relationship. Keith was so hurt that he actually pulled out his school ID, which clearly showed his birth date and name of his parents. He let me have the ID first before Terry or Sean could snatch it out of his hand. Keith was already crying and those two idiots weren't doing a thing to comfort him. I was already feeling angry on Keith's behalf, but what I saw on his school ID absolutely blew my mind. Guys, Keith's school ID told me about the day and year when he was born, and it was the exact same day when I had lost my child. That information, along with the fact that Sean's name was indeed on the school ID under my father's name, absolutely floored me. I was actually gasping for air when I looked back at Keith and saw his hazel eyes staring at me through tears. Sean had grey eyes and Terry had blue eyes. There was no way he inherited that from them. I was shaking when I asked Sean, "Why does Keith's ID say that he is your son? He was born on the day I lost my child. What is going on here?" "I can explain, Zoe. You have to listen. It's all just a coincidence. Okay, I lied about some things, but Keith really isn't my child. I just put my name on his birth certificate because he didn't have a father." "Yes, Sean is telling the truth, Zoe. I don't know who Keith's father was, so I asked Sean for help. Ever since then, he has been helping me. I swear there's nothing more to the story." "So, you were trying to tell me that Keith was magically born on the day I lost my child, and he magically got my eyes instead of getting yours?" It's just a coincidence, Zoe. There's nothing else going on." "Let's talk about this privately, Zoe. I'm sure I can explain everything." "Stop. Just stop, Sean. I don't want any more explanations from you. I found your texts with Terry, which clearly show that you are cheating on me. As for Keith, I will find out everything soon enough, and when I do, you will both pay dearly." Those were some of the last words that I said to them before leaving to find the truth. I went everywhere I could. First, I started off with Sean's mother, who was horrified to know everything I told her. Her expression of surprise and disgust made it clear that she didn't know a thing about what Sean did. She was downright appalled and promised to find out what was going on. With the help of a few friends and their connections, I managed to find out the truth. First, I started with the midwife who was assigned to deliver my baby. I took my mother-in-law and my cop brother to see her. The midwife took one look at my brother in uniform and started to spill all the secrets. Apparently, Sean had paid her to keep her mouth shut. She never told anyone about what she had done. Terry had come into the house after I gave birth to my son. Terry took my son away while I was crying over the lie that my son was dead. My son was never dead. He was simply kidnapped. It then hit me. What I have missed for the last 6 years. I couldn't raise my own kid because my husband gave away my child to his mistress. I was a crying mess and my family had a hard time calming me down. I felt the loss all over again. I wasn't going to get back the 6 years of Keith's life that I had already lost, but I was going to make things right. I was going to teach Sean and Terry a big lesson while making sure my son was back in my arms. So I went ahead and filed a police report against everyone involved in the case. After the report was filed, I flew to where Terry was living. It wasn't very hard to find her home from my husband's texts. Sean hadn't come home since I told him not to come back. Besides, he might have been with his mistress planning their next steps. Instead of giving them or the cops time, I went to confront them. I angrily barged into Terry's house and said, "Did you two think that you would get away with what you did?" "What are you talking about, Zoe? You're being extremely unreasonable. You won't even hear what I have to say. This is ridiculous." "What will you say about kidnapping my child and telling me that he's dead? Did you think I would never find out? You think you can keep my child away from me?" Sean and Terry started to look really sweaty and nervous. They were starting to realize that their evil plots were getting caught. I had discovered the truth despite their best efforts to conceal it. Still, in a ditch attempt, they tried to play innocent and said, "You were wrong, Zoe. Keith is my child. He simply shares the same birthday as your late child." "Is that so, Terry? Then tell me, how did you magically get pregnant when the doctors clearly said otherwise? Isn't that why you and Sean broke up?" "Well, it was a miracle, Zoe. Keith is my miracle baby. I know the doctor said that I could never have kids, but I had Keith anyway." "Lies. They are all lies, Terry. There is no use lying anymore. Keith is not your miracle baby. He is my miracle baby because I was told he was dead." "But I know that was a lie. My own husband had lied to me and given away my son to his mistress." "You don't know what you're saying, Zoe. You're being delusional. Keith is Terry's child and had nothing to do with you." "So, you will still act innocent? Well, what will your answer be when I tell you that the midwife confessed to everything? Do you want me to show you the proof?" Sean and Terry went as white as a ghost when I mentioned the midwife. She was one of the very few people who knew about what was going on, and she had confessed to everything. Sean and Terry had never expected her to talk or them to get caught, so they had this deer-in-headlights kind of look. They said, "What? The midwife told you everything?" "Of course she did, Sean. She took one look at my cop brother and started to spill all your secrets." No, that's impossible. This can't happen." "If you are so much in denial, you can just ask the midwife. Too bad that she is in police custody now. Well, you can go talk to her when the cops come and drag you both away." "What? What do you mean, Zoe?" "It means that I have informed everything to the cops. They had started an investigation and found plenty of proof about what you did. They even found proof that you two faked Keith's birth certificate and kidnapped my child. They will be here for you soon." Sean became even more panicked and Terry just started to cry. It was finally sinking in their heads that their nasty plan was finally about to blow up in their faces. I kind of had a feeling why they did what they did, but I really wanted to hear it from their faces. I wanted closure and revenge before I started my life afresh. Sean and Terry, in their desperation, told me everything. I didn't even have to prompt them for anything. They thought that being the forgiving person I am, forgive them for whatever they did. They said, "Please don't do this, Zoe. We're begging you. We can talk about this. I know what we did was inexcusable for you, but we had our reasons." "I was desperate for a kid, Zoe. Sean saw my pain. You have to understand that he loved me. I swear I loved Keith as my own son. He grew up with his dad in his life as well." "We can make amends with you, Zoe. There's no reason to get the cops involved. We will figure something out with Keith as well." "I'm sure we'll find a way to make things right, Zoe. Please don't call the cops. Don't take me away from my child's life." Keith is not your child, Terry. The sooner you accept that, the better it will be for you. None of you deserve to walk away scot-free after what you did to me. I will never pull back the police report. You two will be going to jail while I take my son back. I will be filing for divorce, and I will make sure none of you ever get to come near my son again. Sean and Terry were still trying to talk to me when I walked out of the house. I knew I would be back there, but not to face them. I would be back to get my child. I didn't want to upset him by taking him forcefully. He was just a 6-year-old whose world was turned upside down. Being his real mom, I didn't want to make things any more difficult for him. So I walked away knowing that soon I would have Keith in my arms. My husband and his mistress were arrested the very next day. The day I left, they flooded me with texts and calls, begging me to spare them and take back the police case. They even tried to use my son as a bargaining chip, which made things worse. It made me angrier that they would drag an innocent child to save their skin. Sadly for them, none of their begging reached my ears. I was adamant that I would make them pay for the pain they put me through. I divorced Sean and got full custody of my child after a long fight. Sean and Terry played me dirty and tried everything to get away with what they did, but God was watching and gave them some severe consequences for their actions. For the nature of the kidnapping, Terry lost all rights to Keith, who actually no longer wanted to see her anymore. He was working with a therapist who made him realize, in child-friendly terms, what had happened. I didn't want to hide the truth from him. We did conduct a DNA test to make sure that he was my kid, and it was a match. So the court awarded me custody. As for Sean and Terry, they are currently serving jail time for what they did. Keith is now living with me and adjusting well to his new life. He still goes to a therapist to cope with the big changes in his life. To make things easier for him, I moved to his city so that he wouldn't have to lose friends by changing schools. My mother-in-law, who disowned Sean, was happy to be a grandma to Keith. Keith was equally thrilled to have an extended family who loved him. I will admit that things were tough in the beginning, but it is getting better. He has even started to call me Mom sometimes. It just brings tears to my eyes. So now I'm trying my best to give my son a good life, while Sean and Terry are rotting in jail. Hello guys, I'm Ava. Have you ever been betrayed by the people you call family? Well, I have. Actually, they were my in-laws. I lost my husband about 2 years ago due to a car crash. I have not been whole again and don't think I will ever get over the fact. It was sudden and the loss was devastating. During the grieving period, I grew close to my mother-in-law Diana and sister-in-law Irene. They were my last connection to my late husband, and I was going to treasure that connection forever. However, I learned late that they had no love for me. Before I tell you what they did, I must give you a few pointers about my relationship with them. Diana was actually living rent-free in an apartment I owned, and I was paying her bills. She left her job due to some issues, and I felt bad for her. She always brought up the fact that my late husband would have taken care of her. So I decided to take on that responsibility since she was also in my family. I also helped out Irene at times with small amounts as well. But it was never enough for them. They always wanted more, and they came up with a plan to make me pay for all the luxuries in their lives. I was rather stupid and naive when Diane called me asking for help. I stayed in contact with her fairly regularly, although I didn't have time to visit due to my horrible work hours. So when Diana called and sounded off, I knew something was wrong. She said, "I have some grave news, Ava. I didn't know who else to call since you are the only family I have except Irene and Aspen." "I'm glad you called, Diana. You sound anxious. Tell me, what's going on with her?" "My poor daughter is on the verge of being homeless. Aspen recently lost his job and Irene is having trouble making ends meet." "Wait, what? When did this even happen? How did it get this far?" I have no idea, Ava. From what Irene told me, Aspen lost his job out of the blue. They don't have much savings, and it's really difficult for them to get a decent job in their area. Things are tough, Ava. My mind was spinning from the onslaught of information. I was really surprised to know that Irene was in such a dire condition. From what Diana was telling me, things were not looking good, and she had the right to be concerned. Actually, I was concerned about them too, since I consider them family. I said, "This is extremely unfortunate, Diana. I feel really bad for Irene. Are they going to be okay?" "I don't know, Ava. My son would have made sure his sister was okay if he was alive. He definitely would have helped her out. God knows what will become of my poor daughter now." "Don't say those things, Diana. Irene will be fine. My husband may not be with us anymore, but I am. You're my family, and so is Irene. I will help you out as much as possible." "Really, Ava? Will you do what my son would have done for his sister? Irene needs help, and I know that." "I will help her out, Diana. I promise you that. I will call her right now and figure something out. There is no way I would allow my sister-in-law to suffer and be homeless." Diana seemed happy to hear me say those words. I was naive and didn't know what she was up to. I genuinely wanted to help my sister-in-law. Also, Diana was right. If my late husband was alive, he would have helped Irene out as well. I was merely trying to fulfill the responsibilities that my late husband couldn't. After hanging up on Diana, I called Irene right away. She picked up soon, almost like she knew I was going to call. That should have been my first red flag. However, I ignored it. I made some small talk before finally broaching the topic. "Hey, Irene, your mother called me a while ago. She said that you have been having money problems recently." "Oh my God, Ava. My mom told you that? I'm so embarrassed. I don't know what to say." "No, Irene, you don't have to be embarrassed. Things happen, and there's nothing to be ashamed of." "Still, I'm so sorry Mom pulled you into my mess. Ava, I really didn't want to burden you with my problems. It would have been different if my brother was alive, but you don't have any obligations to us." Irene's sad voice had gotten to me. Also, the repeated mention of my late husband was making me feel emotional. Irene and Diana both knew how to get to my softer side. They didn't even have to try hard. When Irene mentioned my late husband again, I immediately wanted to assure her and said, "I know your brother is not here to help you, Irene. He would have been heartbroken to see you so sad. But that doesn't mean you don't have anyone else to help you." "But I'm literally about to lose my house, Ava. I don't know what to do. Who will help me get back on my feet? It's not like I can take a small loan and pay them back. Someone has to support us unconditionally." "I will be that person for you, Irene. I will help you out with whatever you need. You don't have to look anywhere else. You can come to me any time." "Really, Ava? You would do that for me?" "Of course. You are my family too. Even if your brother passed away, you are still my sister-in-law. We are a family, Irene. It's my duty to help you." "You are already helping Mom, Ava. I don't want to be a burden." "What nonsense, Irene. You just need help for a few months. It's no big deal. Tell me what you need." After I reassured Irene, she seemed to have been thinking about what I said. Back then, I thought that she was just a little shy and embarrassed. But no, I later realized that it was all for show. Irene is an exceptional actor. I have no idea why she never pursued an acting career. If she had, she wouldn't have done what she did to me. I really couldn't even imagine everything being a setup. I mean, Irene seemed embarrassed when she said, "Well, if you insist so much, it would really help if you could send money every month just till we get back on our feet." "Sure, how much do you need, Irene?" "With rent and all the bills, I'll be needing $3,000, Ava. The prices are pretty cheap here, and Aspen needs gas to go to interviews and grocery trips." That was the second red flag for me, but again, as stupid as I was, I ignored it. It baffled me a little why they needed $3,000 for two people. To me, it seemed to be a little over the top, but then again, they did live in an expensive city, so I thought nothing more about it. Since I had promised to help them out, I agreed to what she was asking. I had a good job that paid well, so I was able to send Irene $3,000 every month without being broke. Sure, it did make a dent in my savings, but what could I do? I had promised Irene help after all. So with everything decided, I started to make the monthly payments to Irene. For the next 6 months, I was giving Irene and Diana money to get by. Not once did I stop to think that maybe I should step back and let them fend for themselves. I didn't want them to suffer in any way, and I considered it my duty to help them. Diana and Irene lamented a lot when my late husband died and left everything to me, so I have decided to help them out however I can. My stupid self didn't stop to realize that now, instead of taking care of one person, I was funding the lifestyle of 3 people. The truth about what Diana and Irene were actually planning was revealed to me after those 6 months. I was busy with work, trying to make money to feed 3 more people. But the people I was taking care of were up to no good, or at least 2 of them were up to no good. I found out about it when I accidentally ran into Aspen at a coffee shop. I was happy to see him after a long time, but was confused about what he was doing in my city. I said, "Hey, Aspen, long time no see. What are you doing here? Has Irene come with you?" "Yes, Irene is with me. Why are you so confused to see me here? We live here now." "What? Wait, what are you talking about?" "We moved here a while ago, Ava. Didn't Irene tell you about it? I'm sure Diana must have mentioned it. You must have forgotten about it." My mind was reeling with all the information. I was trying hard to understand what on earth was going on. What Aspen was saying didn't make any sense. He said that he and Irene moved to our city a while ago, and Diana knew about this all this while. What I didn't understand was why they kept it a secret from me. And their story about Irene's homelessness wasn't making sense anymore. I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about, Aspen. I was never informed of these things. You were saying Diana knows, right? But no one informed me anything." "That's strange. We moved here about 5 months ago, Ava. I left my last job and found a better one here." "You found a job 5 months ago? What are you saying, Aspen? Are you sure Diana knows? This is bizarre." "Diana definitely knows about it, Ava, I'm sure, because we're living with her. We're saving for a house in this city, so Diana suggested that we move in with her. She even offered to help us with the down payment." I was so shocked that my expression changed completely. Aspen noticed it too, since his expression changed with mine. He immediately knew that something was seriously wrong. By that time, I too knew that I was being played by Irene and Diana in some way, and I was starting to get really angry at them. I looked at Aspen and said, "There is something seriously wrong, Aspen. Diana is a poor woman. I give her money for utilities and she lives in my apartment. There is no way she can afford to make any sort of down payment towards your house. I know that you let her live in your apartment without rent, but I don't know about the utilities. It does make sense since she doesn't work. I don't know why I took her words at face value. The bizarre part is that she has been depositing money into Irene's account every month." "What? Diana had been giving Irene money?" "Yes, she'd been giving her $3,000 every month. Irene confirmed it and even showed me that the money has been deposited. That's why I never questioned Diana that much." It hit me then. I finally understood why Irene and Diana had been making up stories. Irene wasn't destitute at all. No, she just wanted to take my money and use it to buy a house for herself. And Diana was helping her do this. They planned it together. Those 2 were exploiting me so that they wouldn't have to work hard like me. My world came crashing down around me. These people who were considered to be my family were just using me for money. I was nothing but an ATM to them. The betrayal just left me aching inside. I was almost in tears. Aspen didn't know a thing about their plan. He was left in the dark, and made to believe that everything Irene and Diana was doing was honest work. Now, I have two options. One was to keep my mouth shut and leave without telling Aspen the truth. I could have walked away, confronted Irene and Diana privately, stopped giving Irene money, and left them to figure out their next steps. Option 2 was going nuclear on them, and I chose option 2. I chose to tell Aspen the truth. I said, "They have been lying to you, Aspen, and they have been lying to me as well. Diana isn't the one sending that money. It was me who sent it." "What? But why? I don't understand. Why would you send us money, and why are my wife and mother-in-law lying about it?" "Because they wanted me to fund your new house, Aspen. They wanted to drain my money so that they wouldn't have to work hard. They lied to me and told me that you were going homeless. They asked for money and I helped them by sending $3,000 every month. I had no idea that they were playing me." "Oh God, what are you saying, Ava? You thought we were going homeless?" "That's what Diana and Irene told me, Aspen. Irene said that you lost your job and were struggling to make ends meet. They even guilted me by saying that my late husband would have helped them out." "This is terrible, Ava. I don't know what to say anymore. They betrayed not only you but also me. They played us for fools. I don't know how I would even look at my wife after this." Aspen was reeling from what I said. He was actually a good man and nothing like Irene. I could tell that the betrayal stung him. He couldn't believe how evil Diana and Irene could be. I took this chance to really talk to him. I told him everything that went on and didn't sugarcoat anything. I didn't care if Aspen would want to end his marriage after this. In fact, I was hoping he would remove himself from a scheming woman like Irene. After I was done talking to Aspen about everything, we came up with a plan. We were going to keep quiet and take care of some things before confronting Irene and Diana. They didn't deserve the chance to come up with a plan once I would reveal what I had in store for them. I didn't even reach out to them for about a week. It was already nearing the end of the month, and I knew Irene and Diana would call me asking for the monthly payment. So I decided to wait for that, and I wasn't disappointed. The calls came where Irene and Diana wanted to know when I would be sending the money. I simply told her to wait and hung up. Then I proceeded to Diana's house to confront them. When I reached Diana's house, it was Irene who opened the door. It was a weekday, so they probably weren't expecting me to show up. Irene took one look at me and froze. When Diana came to the door, she froze as well. Irene tried to make damage control by saying that she had come to Diana's house yesterday for a short visit. Diana kept nodding at her. I smirked, walked into the house and sat down on the sofa. They sat with me silently, looking and casting worried glances at each other. I broke the silence and said, "So, you called me this morning asking for the monthly payments. I thought I would come by in person and clear the issue directly with you. I'll just cut straight to the chase. You two won't be getting any money from me anymore." "What? Why, Ava? Why would you suddenly stop the payment? You know we need the money." "Yes, you promised to take care of me. Now you're going back on your word. I can't believe you would abandon us like this. My son would be turning in his grave." I laughed out loud when they tried to guilt me with my late husband's name again. They knew they were caught, but were trying their best to avoid the issue. Oh no, they wanted to act like everything was fine. Too bad I wasn't going to allow that. I said, "Oh, my dear mother-in-law, your son would be turning in his grave, but not for me. No, he would be ashamed of what his mother and sister tried to do." "What are you talking about, Ava?" "Maybe the fact that you are not destitute and your husband has a brand new job in this city. I also heard that he makes way more than he used to at his last job. Care to tell me why you two would lie about it to me?" "It's not like that, Ava. Aspen got a job very recently. Irene literally just moved here yesterday. You are overreacting and misunderstanding the situation." Yes, you are misunderstanding us, Ava. Aspen just got the job and we are still struggling. He didn't even get his paycheck this month." Is that so, Irene? So you two were not lying to me so that you could take my money and buy a new house? Is that what you're telling me? Diana and Irene now looked really pale. They were taken aback by my words. I don't know what they were expecting to happen. I would have found out eventually when Irene would buy her house out of the blue. I guess they wouldn't have cared about my reaction because their goal would have been achieved. But I caught them red-handed before they could make their plan successful. And now they were going to pay for taking advantage of me. They simply didn't know that yet. Diana and Irene were nervous and trying to act innocent. They said, "What are you even talking about, Ava? Who said we are buying a house?" "Don't try to act all innocent and clueless, Irene. Your husband, Aspen, told me everything. I met him at a coffee shop accidentally, and eventually the truth came out. The poor man thinks that Diana is giving you money for the down payment. What do you have to say about that, Diana? Your daughter is not on the brink of homelessness after all, since she is living with you." "Look, I know we didn't give you the full story, but this was necessary. You can't expect Irene to live in a bad apartment when I and you have our own place." "Wow. Did you forget the fact that this apartment isn't yours? I let you live in my apartment, and you think you can take advantage of me for the sake of your daughter? Do you think I would just overlook what you did?" "Oh, come on, Ava. You're overreacting. You have plenty of money already and 2 fully paid houses. You don't need so much money anyway. It didn't kill you to send me money. Clearly I needed it more." "That's right. If you can help me, you can help my daughter as well. She's your family. I'm sure my late son would have wanted this." Irene and Diana straight up started to make it seem like it was not a big deal. Somehow me working hard and earning money made them entitled to it as well. I didn't understand their messed up logic. There probably isn't any logic anyway. Also, there was the fact that they were dragging my late husband into this mess as well. It all made my blood boil, but I plastered on a cheerful expression. After all, it was time to take some revenge. I smiled and said, "There is no use talking about my dead husband, Diana. Don't use his name to hide your horrible intentions. You two are just plain moochers and don't deserve my money. Good for me that Aspen decided to send me the money back, so I have it sitting in my account now." "What? Did Aspen return the money to you? He knows about everything?" "Of course he does, Irene. The poor man was severely embarrassed and decided to send me the money back." I must say that he was rather angry. "Why would you tell him everything, Ava? And why did you take the money back? I needed it." "This was a horrible thing to do, Ava. Irene needs to buy a house soon so that she can start a family with Aspen. You can't just take that money back." "What family are you talking about, Diana? Irene is not going to have any family with Aspen. Didn't you hear? Aspen is going to separate from her." Irene and Diana were staring at me with their eyes bulging out of their sockets. Yes, it was true that Aspen was considering separation and even divorce. He met with a lawyer to draw up the papers just the previous day. He was ready for battle. Irene wasn't told of this yet, and Aspen gave me permission to break the news to her. Irene and her mom were not happy with this. They said, "What are you even talking about, Ava? This is nonsense." No, that can't happen. Aspen would never leave me." "I won't be so sure of it, since he has already met with a divorce lawyer. Do you think he would want to be with a scheming woman like you?" No, this can't be happening. You just destroyed my life, Ava. How could you do this?" "There is no use blaming me, Irene. After all, I wasn't the one who decided to betray the woman you call your family." "You don't deserve an ounce of respect from me." "What you did was uncalled for, Ava. You will apologize to Irene right now for trying to break up her marriage, and you will help her buy a house. If you don't do this, we will never consider you our family again." Diana thought that giving me an ultimatum would make me beg for forgiveness. Their audacity and toxicity made me want to puke. My face of disgust was difficult to hide, but I managed somehow. Instead, I simply laughed and informed them about how deep in trouble they were. I said, "Oh, there won't be any need for frets, Diana. I don't want to be your family anymore. I'm done allowing myself to be used by you two. There is no way you will get anything out of it anymore. In that case, you can get out of my house right now. We don't want to see your face ever again." "Of course, Diana, I don't want to be in your presence either. But first let me correct the mistake you just made. This house is not yours, it is mine. And I am evicting you from this place right now. Here is the eviction notice." "What? You are evicting me? How could you do this to your own mother-in-law, Ava? She's a poor old woman who has nowhere to go. My brother would never forgive you for this." She stopped being a poor old lady when she decided to scam me out of money. Instead of preaching to me, you should start looking for a place with your mom. There is no use depending on Aspen since he already found an apartment to live in on his own. Oh, there is one thing left before I go. Remember when I said that I won't be giving you money anymore? Yeah, I was serious about that. You two are on your own. With that bombshell, I exited the apartment with Diana and Irene begging me not to do this to them. I went back home, and those two bombarded me with texts and calls. The next day they showed up at my house crying about how Aspen was seriously leaving Irene, and now they were about to become homeless for real. They shamelessly tried to use my dead husband as if it was going to work. I simply told them that if they didn't get off my property and stop harassing me, I would call the cops. At the end of the month, Diana was forced to leave my apartment. I had threatened her with legal action if she hadn't. Aspen had left a while ago since he found a one-bedroom flat for himself. He didn't take Irene with him, and the couple are currently going through separation. I have talked to Aspen, who has made it clear that he doesn't trust Irene, so the marriage was doomed. Irene and Diana are still throwing a fit, but were both forced to go back to work minimum wage jobs. So I got my money back and made them fend for themselves after they shamelessly tried to use me. Hello guys, I'm Lana. I must be one of the oldest people here to share her story. Well, I guess there is a first for everything. This story is being written by Riley. She was married to my grandson, Joe. My late husband, Matt, and I raised Joe since he was a toddler. His parents passed away in a tragic car accident, and we were the only ones to care for him. We were there to watch him grow and give him everything to succeed in life. We were with Joe every step of the way. When Joe showed up with Riley and told us that they had gotten married, Matt and I were a little shocked. We were hurt that they had eloped straight out of high school. Riley's parents had disowned her because of the wedding, so Joe brought her to our house. We took them both in and promised to help them out. Joe went to college while Riley stayed behind and took care of us. Eventually, Joe got a great job and started to achieve his goals. We were proud of him, but things were about to get bad. It was shortly after Joe joined a good job after working his way up in a cutthroat industry. He had landed a high-level job and was really starting to enjoy his life. Riley was super happy, and together they were even planning to have a child. But only a few months later, Riley arrived, crying on our doorstep. She was a mess and we didn't know what to do. When she came in, I said, "What is going on, Riley? You look horrible. Why are you crying so much?" "You need to tell us what happened, Riley. You're starting to scare us." "I don't know what to say, guys. Joe has left me. He's gone." "What are you talking about, Riley?" "I'm telling you the truth, Matt. Joe is gone, and so is his stuff. He left a note saying that he wants to divorce me and start a new life. He doesn't love me anymore." Riley went into a sobbing fit while Matt and I tried to wrap our heads around what we just heard. It was super bizarre, and we didn't know what to even think of it. It was true that Joe was growing a little distant from all of us. In fact, we were about to talk to him and try to know what was bothering him. But before we could do that, Riley arrived on our doorstep. Matt and I calmed Riley down and decided to talk to Joe separately. We immediately called him, praying to God that my grandson was just joking around. The moment he picked up, Matt nervously said, "Where are you, Joe? I just found your wife crying on our doorstep. She's saying that you have abandoned her. What's going on?" "Tell me that this is not true, Joe. Tell me that this is just a joke." "It's not a joke, guys. I've left her for good. Riley and I are done." I was shocked by what Joe said. Even Matt looked like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. We were really expecting Joe to laugh and say that this was all a joke, but he actually sounded serious when he said that he was indeed leaving Riley. I was confused beyond belief. We thought that they were happy. Joe had always said that he had married the love of his life. I was having a hard time imagining he would do this to her. I said, "You can't be serious, Joe. Riley is your wife. You can't just up and leave for no reason." "Oh, I haven't left without any reason, Grandma. I actually did tell her in vivid detail how I was no longer in love with her." "What? What happened, Joe? Why did your feelings suddenly change? You need to tell us everything so that we can understand better." "I can tell you, but I don't think you'll get it." "We will try to, Joe. We love you and we want to know what's wrong. We can't let you just abandon your wife without knowing the real reason. Tell us and let us think of a solution." "Look, I don't need your permission to do what I want. But if you're so interested in knowing the truth, I will tell you. The thing is, now that I have landed a great job, I can't have an average girl like Riley as my wife anymore." Matt and I were stunned into silence when Joe told us his reasons. We really were shocked to our core. In no universe did we think that our little grandson, Joe, would turn into such a vile and shallow person. We didn't teach him to abandon people just because he pleased, and we definitely didn't teach him to think the way he did. So his words made us both very angry. We said, "What is this nonsense, Joe? You are being downright mean and delusional. Riley is a great girl and you are insulting her." "I don't think you are thinking straight, Joe. This is not how a marriage works. Riley loves you and you love her. That's what is most important. Besides, Matt is right. Riley is a great girl and I don't think you can ask for better." "That is definitely not true. I want a better wife because I could have a better one. And guess what? I already found someone who's way better than Riley. My new girlfriend is more beautiful and successful than Riley. They're so far apart. They don't even compare." The conversation kept getting worse. With every sentence Joe said, Matt and I were getting angry. Joe was being extremely nonchalant and straight up admitted that he had an affair. Still, Matt and I knew that we had to find out more about what happened. Whatever we knew was enough to make us disgusted with Joe. But knowing the whole truth was important for us and for Riley. I said, "Are you telling us that you had an affair, Joe? And you were leaving Riley to be with your mistress? Is that what you were saying?" "If you want to call this an affair, then call it whatever you want. I don't care what name you give to our relationship. The fact is that I am in love with my new girlfriend and she is everything to me now." "What about Riley, Joe? She was everything to you too. That's what you had told us when you asked for our help and blessing to get married." "I was young and stupid, Grandpa. I really should have waited for a while before settling for an average girl. Thank God I realized my mistake before having kids with her. I would have been stuck with her for life." "I don't believe this, Joe. You were being so nonchalant about this all. You made a big mistake and crossed a big boundary by cheating on your wife. You have disappointed us, Joe." "Well, I don't care. I'm happy with my new woman, so you should be happy about this too. She was the one who made me realize that I was wasting my time with an insignificant woman. She was right about that. She is so much better than Riley." Matt was getting very angry with Joe, and this was the last comment that drove him over the edge. He hated cheaters as much as I hated them. Joe was our grandson, all right, but he was behaving like an insane man. He expected us to just accept his new life and not hold him responsible for his actions. But we weren't willing to do what he wanted. Matt, in his anger, said, "No, absolutely not, Joe. We will not be happy about what you have done, and we will never accept your new life." I have to agree with Matt here, Joe. From your words, it is clear that this woman knew you were a married man. So she wasn't in the dark about what she was doing. This is just plain wrong, and we will never accept a girl like that. Very well, then. This makes things much better, actually. My new girlfriend doesn't want me to be so close to you guys. She thinks you try to control me, and I will never reach my full potential if I keep listening to you guys. Looks like she was right. I actually winced when Joe said that. The more he was talking, the further away I felt from him. I used to find the essence of my son in Joe, but the man who was talking to me on the phone didn't even feel like he was related to me. Joe was so influenced by his new girlfriend that he was ready to cut us off for it. He actually said those words out loud. He was telling us that he would choose this girl over someone who raised him. I had tears in my eyes from the sheer betrayal. I said in a shaky voice, "What? You will abandon us for this woman too? How can you even say that, Joe?" "I'm serious about this, Grandma. Lana has been right about everything. If you can't even be happy for me, you don't deserve to be in my life." "Is that a threat, Joe? If we don't forgive you for your nonsense and accept your wife, will you cut us off?" "Yes, I actually will do that. Since you want to take Riley's side so badly, let her be your grandchild instead of me. I'm done. We raised you for 20 years, and this is how you repay us. We did our best and sacrificed a lot to make sure you were taken care of. Now, we know that it was all in vain. You have turned into an absolute monster." Those were some of the last words Matt spoke to Joe. The conversation that followed this is not worth mentioning. There was a lot of back and forth, and Joe ended up calling us some awful things. I knew he was hurt that we didn't accept his choices right away, but what option did we have? We weren't going to blindly support Joe's decisions just because he is our grandson. He was behaving like a very cruel person, and he was putting this new girl above everyone else. He also showed no remorse for the wrongs he did. It absolutely broke our hearts. When Matt and I finally ended our conversation with Joe, we knew one thing. Joe was beyond help now. He was adamant about cutting us off if we didn't accept his new life. He was forcing us to do something that we didn't want to do. In the end, before we could even make a decision, our grandson cut us off for good. He blocked us everywhere, effectively cutting off our connection to him. Joe and Riley ended up getting a divorce after Joe didn't come back for a full year. Riley was a mess and relied on me and my husband for emotional support. We actually invited her into our house because she was a broken mess from what Joe did to her. Guys, Matt and I never regretted the decision about making Riley a part of our family. When our own grandson abandoned us, Riley was there for us. After she got back on her feet and became emotionally strong, she became our rock. Joe didn't even talk to us for 5 years, not a single word. We never reached out because it was never our decision to cut him off. Matt and I missed our grandson. I'm not going to lie about that. However, his betrayal cut deep and left us bleeding inside. My husband never got to see or talk to Joe again. He died before Joe reached us. When Matt passed away, I didn't know whether to invite Joe to the funeral. I was a broken mess and wanted my grandson there. It was Riley who convinced me to call him. She said, "Listen to me, Lana. I know you are missing your grandson. Go and call him. Tell him what happened and ask him to come to the funeral." "I don't know, Riley. I still haven't forgiven him for what he did." "It was a long time ago, Lana. It's okay if you don't want to forgive him, but I think you will always feel guilty and have regrets if you don't try once." "You think that inviting him to the funeral will be a good idea?" "I feel really unsure, Riley." "You and Matt raised Joe almost like your own child, Lana. I think as a parent you could give him this one chance to grieve someone who he loves. Joe loved you too. Maybe this time he will finally see how wrong he was to cut you off." Riley's words gave me some hope. She was right. I didn't want to regret not calling Joe to the funeral. Maybe he still loved us and would want to pay his respects to his grandpa for one last time. Even if he was too prideful to talk to us, it was my duty to reach out to him. Besides, Riley had moved on with a great man, and so I was ready to try and mend the bridges with Joe too. So I said to Riley, "Okay, Riley, I will invite Joe to the funeral, but he has blocked me everywhere and I don't have his contact anymore. I don't know how to reach him." "Don't worry, Lana. He had never blocked me from social media. I could reach out to him on your behalf. You can dictate the message and watch as I type it out and send it to him." "That sounds great, Riley. I hope you're right about this. I don't want to have any regrets in case Joe wants to pay his final respects to his grandfather." Riley excitedly sent the text that I dictated to her. I was starting to have some hope after Riley talked to me about possibly moving on from the incident. She didn't like that Joe boycotted us and we ended up losing our bond with him. Sometimes she felt guilty, although none of this was her fault. She never told us to not support Joe's decision, and she didn't tell Joe to block us or leave us. Anyway, despite what happened in the past and the fact that Joe never reached out again, I was ready to have some closure and maybe find in my heart to forgive him. My hopes were very short-lived. The first indication came when we found out that Joe had received the message and seen it. But he never graced us with a reply. We had provided him with all the details of the funeral, so we thought maybe he didn't need any more information, so he didn't text back. Riley and I still had a little hope that he would turn up at the funeral. I was willing to extend an olive branch just to see if he had changed a little. Believe me, guys, I really wanted Joe and me to have a relationship despite everything. I was looking forward to seeing him, but my hopes were in vain. The funeral came and went. It was a beautiful day with the sunniest weather, a day that Matt would have liked. The funeral service was also very emotional, but went well. Riley held me throughout the entire funeral. And Joe? He never showed up. I kept looking at the door, hoping that he would arrive any time soon. When I went home, the realization hit me in the face. Joe hadn't bothered to show up at Matt's funeral. I can't tell you how heartbroken I was, but it sealed my resolve about the little decision I had left to make in my life. A day after the funeral was the day when Matt's will would be read. Riley and I were patiently waiting for Matt's estate lawyer to come and tell us all the details, but the first person to walk through the door wasn't our lawyer, it was Joe. I was dumbfounded to see him nonchalantly walk into the house with complete disregard. I said, "What are you doing here, Joe?" "What do you think I'm doing here? I heard that you're supposed to read the will today." "What does it have to do with you?" "I'm your only grandson, in case you have forgotten. I've come to take my rightful inheritance from Grandpa." I was stunned at what Joe said to me. Riley was equally surprised to see Joe, and his words made her even more shocked. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was literally fuming with rage. I looked Joe straight in the eye and said, "You have some nerve showing up after 5 years and straight up demanding money. You didn't even come to Matt's funeral. Did you even have an ounce of respect for your grandfather, Joe?" "Oh, stop the theatrics right now. There was no need for me to show up to the funeral. What would I have said anyway? It's not like I have come to re-establish anything. I've just come for my rightful inheritance." "What makes you think you are entitled to anything after you basically abandoned us for 5 years?" "I'm not here to entertain your stupid questions, Grandma. Just call the lawyer and tell him to be here soon. I don't have much time." Joe was acting so cold that it made my heart boil instead. I was absolutely furious at him and wanted to throw him out of my house instantly. But I didn't do that. No, I wasn't going to simply kick him out. I was going to teach him a good lesson. I picked up my phone and told our lawyer to come over immediately. He was already on his way and arrived within minutes. Joe didn't even bother to make small talk during this time, and he straight up ignored Riley. When the lawyer was finally in my house, Joe looked super excited. However, my lawyer was confused. He said, "Why is Joe here? This is a private will reading, so I don't think he can be here." "He thinks he's getting a huge inheritance from Matt's estate. Do you have any idea about this?" "What? That's ridiculous. I never called Joe for the reading. He doesn't need to be here at all." "What on earth are you saying? Of course I needed to be here. I'm the sole heir of Matt's estate. I know that already." "I don't know who told you that, but you are mistaken, Joe. You are not the sole heir of Matt's estate. In fact, you are not even mentioned in the will." "What?" "I don't believe a word you're saying. I'm definitely included in the will. I'm his grandson and his only heir. Why won't I be mentioned in the will?" While Joe was going mad with confusion, I was having the time of my life watching him stress. He deserved it for what he did to us. Then, when Joe acted all shocked, I decided to laugh. Joe looked at me and the lawyer with questions in his eyes. That's when I decided to serve some cold, hard revenge. I said, "Oh, Joe, you are a dense man. You want to know why you haven't been named in the will? Well, it was because Matt disinherited you." No, that's not possible. He wouldn't do that to me. I'm his blood. His only surviving heir. He would never disinherit me." "Do you think we believe in that old-fashioned stuff? Matt wanted to leave his inheritance to someone who would deserve it and not someone who simply had his blood." "No, this can't be happening. I am the rightful heir. How could he leave his estate to anyone else? If he disinherited me, who got my share of the inheritance?" "You really want to know who got your part of the inheritance? Well, Matt gave it to Riley." Joe and Riley were both surprised by what I said. They looked at my lawyer to confirm the news, and he simply nodded to say that I was right. It came as a shock to them, but not to me. I knew this all along. Matt and I had jointly decided on what to do with our will. It was both of our decisions to cut Joe off and give everything to Riley. Joe, however, couldn't accept this. He started to turn pale and said, "This has to be a joke. Why would he leave everything to Riley? This is not fair." "Then what is fair, Joe? Do you really think Matt would leave his hard-earned assets to a useless grandson who abandoned him and didn't even bother to show up at the funeral?" "I'm his blood. Matt wouldn't do that to me." "Oh, believe me, Joe, he was perfectly happy making this decision. If you think I'm tricking you, the lawyer will show you the will. That would solve your doubts." "How could you let him do this, Grandma?" "It was an easy decision, Joe. We raised you, but you only managed to stab us in the back and abandon us. You didn't reach out in a year. You didn't even let us make our own decisions about you. Riley was here for us, and she is the rightful heir to our estate. I won't be here for long, so you better remember this, Joe. I will also disinherit you and leave everything to Riley. You will never get another cent from me, and you will pay for abandoning us." I vividly remember what happened next. I went straight to the front door and opened it myself. I showed Joe the way out, effectively kicking him off my property. When he was gone, the will was read, and true to my word, Joe's inheritance was left to Riley. She was a crying mess and thanked us for being her family when her own blood turned their backs on her. I simply said that she did the same for me and Matt. Joe left that day but continued to try and contact me. He was desperate for reconciliation and even left his new wife because she had previously convinced him that we would give him everything if he just cut off. Suffice it to say, he is going through hell while I am preparing to watch Riley walk down the aisle to her happiness. I still miss Matt like crazy, but can't say I miss Joe at all. He chose to abandon us, and I have finally made my peace with it. I have Riley along with the beautiful memories of my husband and children, which are enough to last me this lifetime.